Welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial, we'll be making this bustier top with a basket weave yoke. If it's something you're interested in, then let's get started. I've already drawn on my horizontal measurement. That's my shoulder line. For my shoulder line, I'll go down by 10 inches. That's my bust line. Then from the bust line, I went down by 3 inches. That's my under bust. So I'm going to label my bust line. I went down by 6 inches. That will be my waistline. The next thing I did was to measure the length of my top. That was around 21 and a half. What I'm going to do next is to measure half of my shoulder measurement. Then I'll go down by 1 inch. After that, I'll mark my neck measurement, which is 3 inches. Then I'll connect my shoulder slope. To get my armhole opening, what I did was to divide my bust by 6 and I added 1.5 to what I got. I went ahead to extend the line and I labeled it my chest line. On my bust line, I'm going to mark half of my nipple to nipple measurement. I'll mark it on my bust line, under bust, and my waistline. I'll also extend it to my top length. I'm going to connect them with a line once I'm done with that. On the chest line, I'll go down by 1 inch. I'll mark it. I'll go back to my shoulder slant and measure half of my shoulder slant. That's about 2.5. Then I'll connect it to my bust line. On my under bust line, on the side going towards the center front, I'm going to mark half of an inch. I'll also mark half of an inch on my waistline and on my top length. I'll mark 1.5 on the side going towards the side seam. I'll mark it on my under bust, my waistline, and my top length. I'm going to join my lines with a curve. So for my under bust, I'm going to join into the 1 inch I came down with from my bust line. Back to my armhole opening, I'm going to measure half of my armhole opening. Then I'll go in by half an inch. After that, on my chest line, I'm going to mark quarter of my bust measurement. Then I'll add about 1 inch or 1.5 inch to it as sewing allowance. After that, I'm going to connect my points. Because I don't want this top to be revealing, I went up by 1 inch. On my new chest line, on the side going towards the armhole, I'm going to mark 3/4 of an inch, while on the side going towards the center front, I'm going to mark 1 inch. Then I'm going to connect them to my bust line. For my neckline, I want it to be a sweater neck. So from the new chest line, I'm going to just draw a curve to the initial chest line. I'm going to go down by 3 inches. This will be my neckline measurement. From that point right there, I'm going to draw a curve to the armhole. Then I'll go back to my chest line to take quarter of my chest measurement. I will also measure the dart intake I took. That's about 1/4. I will replace it back to my chest line. Don't forget to add your sewing allowance. I added like 1.5 inch sewing allowance. On my waistline, I'll also mark quarter of my waist measurement. I will also replace the dart intake I took. That should be around 2 inches. Once I've done that, I'll add my sewing allowance. So I'll add 1.5 sewing allowance to it. After taking my measurement, I'm going to connect my lines. For the lower part of the top, I want it to have like a V shape. So I'm going to take my curve roll and just draw out a V shape. I'll go ahead and cut out my pattern after I'm done taking all my measurements. For my back, I've already drawn out my lines. The only difference is that before I started taking my measurements, I added 1.5 inches. This is my zip allowance. I'll be using this as my zip allowance. You can actually just cut out your back pattern like this, but I won't mind to have like a yoke. So I'm just going to draw a curve from the armhole to my zip allowance. I want my neckline to be a V shape, so I'm going to draw a line to meet the curve part. Once I'm done, I'm going to cut out my back pattern. I've already cut out my back. The only place I added sewing allowance is the upper part there and that lower part for the yoke and the side seam because of the joining allowance. From my front part, I added sewing allowance to the sides and the upper part right there. For the yoke, I went ahead to cut that on the fold and I added sewing allowance on that lower part. I've gone ahead to cut out my wadding and hairstay on my fabric, on my Ankara fabric, and I've ironed it. The next thing I'm going to do is to join them. For the back, I'll be joining my back yoke first. Make sure your right sides are facing each. After stitching the back yoke, I'm going to attach the lower back together. This is what it looks like after I attach both parts together. Please don't forget your darts. I forgot to take in my darts. You should do this before you attach both parts together. The next thing I'm going to do is to attach the fabric with the lining of the lower part. So I'll be stitching the hemline, the zip allowance and the side seam. Then I'll pull it out by that armhole side. After I'm done stitching the back, I'll go ahead and fix my zip. This is what my front part looks like once I was done stitching it together. For the yoke, I've already marked out the lines where I'm going to sew my strap. The space between the lines is about 1/4. I'm going to fold it as you can see, then I'll sew it on the paper. This is what it looks like once I was done. I also went ahead to tape the necklines. Once I'm done with that, the next thing I'm going to do is to trim off that V shape to make sure they are equal. I'm going to attach my yoke to the lower part of the top. This is what it looks like once I was done attaching it. The next thing I'm going to do is to fix my front and back shoulders together. After fixing the shoulder, I'm going to join the sides. I'll be cutting my sleeve next, so it's already folded into two. Then I'm going to fold it again. That makes it 4. I'm doing this so that I can actually cut my sleeve at once. From the edge of my sleeve, I'll go down by 3 inches. After that, I'm going to mark half of my sleeve opening. Then I'm going to connect it with a curve. The length of my sleeve is actually 25 inches. Then I added half an inch, so I added 1 inch sewing allowance for the shoulder and the hem. Next I'm going to do is connect it with a slant line to the other edge of the sleeve. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to cut out my sleeve. For the hem of my sleeve, I've already cut out a strap which measures 2.5 inches. So I'm just going to plait it on the edge. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to stitch up my sleeve. Then I'm going to attach it to my top. Then we are basically done with our top.